On September 1st, China officially implemented newly revised export control regulations on unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs. This move is more than a trade restriction. It signals a strategic attempt to reshape global industrial rules, where technological dominance has become the ultimate leverage in the great power rivalry. China's UAV export controls have triggered what analysts are calling a seismic shift, with impacts far surpassing those seen during the rare earths dispute. The measures expose the fragile dependency of Western technology supply chains while reinforcing China's unrivaled dominance in low-altitude economies. Western companies are now reeling from supply shocks. Prices of critical UAV components, such as inertial navigation units, have soared from a few hundred to several thousand yuan. Propulsion motors are up by 30%. These spikes are disrupting core industries in both civilian and defense sectors. In agriculture, the blow has been particularly severe. Over 80% of agricultural UAVs in the US rely on Chinese-made drones, especially from DJI. The sudden halt in access to digital radar systems has crippled irrigation efficiency, resulting in a more than 5% drop in crop yields across the Midwest in Q4 2024. As inventories dwindle, waves of farmer protests have reached Capitol Hill, symbolized by piles of corn dumped at the steps of the U.S. Congress. Western defense contractors are also taking heavy losses. Several major weapons development programs have stalled as prices for thermal imaging gear have doubled and delivery cycles broken down. In Switzerland, UAV software firms have tripled their after-sales response times. Today, Europe is estimated to be more than 3 years behind China in electro-optical detection technologies, with no viable substitutes in sight. Meanwhile, China is consolidating its position through 3 key pillars. First, market dominance. China manufactures 8.5 out of every 10 civilian UAVs worldwide and holds over 50% of the U.S. commercial drone market. Second, technological edge. With 2,300 UAV companies, China accounts for 70% of global drone patents. Although the U.S. launched its Blue UAV program in 2019, more than half of the so-called domestic drones still rely on Chinese parts. And third, strategic depth. China leads in core technologies such as flight control algorithms and high-precision navigation modules, black box technologies that cannot be replicated in the short term, far surpassing the advantage once held by rare earths. Since 2015, China has gradually tightened controls over UAV exports, covering everything from agricultural drones to thermal cameras and synthetic aperture radar. In September 2024, the latest revisions added stringent thresholds for military-grade specifications, including power outputs above 16 kilowatts, transmission ranges beyond 50 kilometers, or systems capable of controlling more than 10 drones simultaneously. Several companies in the US and Taiwan were added to China's entity list, cutting off any potential backdoors for tech leakage. A less volume, higher price strategy has led to a 30% drop in China's UAV export volume in Q3 2024, but the average unit price rose by 50% and profit from US trade doubled. China has demonstrated its ability to control the high end of UAV technology. In modern warfare, as evidenced in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, drones have become decisive. China is leveraging this reality to position UAVs as strategic assets. The European Union has filed complaints with the WTO, while Washington has called for a loosening of the restrictions. But China has already erected robust technical barriers, backed by a complete industrial chain, from chips to final assembly, and a dual-use approach that integrates civilian and military technology. China also plays a growing role in setting international UAV standards, such as identification protocols and electronic fencing systems. All exported drones are now monitored under China's National UAV Control System. Though the White House initially planned to ban Chinese drones from the 2025 defense budget, the Pentagon had to walk back the measure due to the lack of viable alternatives within a year. Western countermeasures are underway. The U.S. has allocated $2 billion to a domestic UAV development initiative known as the Phoenix Project. The EU is working with Airbus and Leonardo to close the technology gap. Still, a recent report from the European Defence Agency concluded that even producing inertial navigation systems domestically would take at least 5 years. The ripple effect reaches small businesses as well. For example, several French winemakers have been unable to monitor their vineyards after DJI suspended drone deliveries. This highlights the growing tension between national security imperatives and economic livelihoods. China is not only supplying drones, it is exporting the standards that govern them. The emergence of UAV tech hubs in Africa illustrates Beijing's dual strategy, promoting both Chinese technology and regulatory frameworks abroad. In the evolving global tech race, China is proving that control over UAVs may be its strongest countermeasure to Western containment. A new era of technological hegemony has begun.